Welcome to your first class in a three-part series called Spiritual Communication and Development for Beginners. So the purpose of these classes is to hopefully demystify and make accessible for anyone who would like to be able to communicate with the spirit realm. And this means communication with spirit guides or loved ones who have passed. It'll allow you to gain insight, answers, and to be able to communicate when you need to, when you want to. To begin, you'll first need to decide on a daily spiritual practice. This is kind of your foundation because you're wanting to build a relationship and you're wanting to be able to sort of reach out in a way with your spirit guides and do something that is uniquely you. As you watch this video, your guides are going to give you promptings. They're going to let you know this is right for you, this is not right for you. And that will come in a feeling of interest. It might come in a feeling of, I want to know more. It may be a word that appeals to you. So keep a pen and a pad of paper or a phone or a computer next to you. So as I talk about these different ideas of spiritual practice, so you can write them down and then you can go back and put together your own spiritual practice. I would love to be able to do this for you, but what I can do is give you kind of a lot of ideas, and then with the help of your guides, you're going to be able to pick out the things that appeal to you, and they will just resonate with you. You don't have to feel like you're communicating yet. It will come. It will come in the feeling of, I'm interested. I want to know more. That sounds just like me. I would love that. It's going to be kind of, it will resonate with you and it will feel like that sounds like me. And that's how you put together your spiritual practice. It has to do with being consistent, and it has to be something that you can fit into your lifestyle with your interests. It needs to be something that you can kind of use to tap into a meditative state. And that meditative state opens the door for your spirit guides, loved ones to communicate with you. And we'll get more into that in the next couple of videos. For this video, we are solely focusing on your spiritual practice. This is the foundation. We can't build the house without the foundation. So this is the foundation. And the reason this is so important is because when you have a spiritual practice that you do daily, something happens. You kind of start to build a relationship not only with your kind of inner self, we'll talk about that, but with your guides. You kind of get in a mode of listening or a mode of being accessible. So we're going to start with something that is very, very common because most people know it as the supreme spiritual practice, which is meditation. What you may not know is that there are lots of types of meditation, and the idea is not to stop thinking or not think. That's an idea that is false, even though a lot of people think that's what meditation is. We're thinking human beings, so we're going to think. So meditation is more about focusing in or narrowing your focus. And it's about creating space between thoughts. That's more what meditation is. And so if I explain it in a way that appeals to you, write it down. If you think that does not appeal to me, I don't like that at all, forget about it and wait for the next thing that I talk about, okay? Don't feel like there's any pressure. Be open. Be open to each thing I talk about. See how it resonates with you. If it resonates, write it down or tap it into your phone. When you're done with this video, what you're going to do is go back over your list. And then you might go back into the parts of the video that talk about these things and put together your own spiritual practice. This practice needs to be something that fits you. It has to be about you. So if you're a very, very busy mom and you do not have any time at all, make 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, and 5 minutes in the evening, or 3 minutes in the morning and 3 minutes in the evening. Start somewhere. And what you'll find is that it gets easier and easier to get into the mode faster and faster. Make sure that you're in a place that is quiet and that is comfortable and that you're not going to be disturbed, because those are the three things you need to make sure of. If you're very, very busy, this may mean getting up 20 minutes earlier and doing your practice and then waiting till the kids go to bed and do your practice in the evening. That's okay. Help it to fit your lifestyle and make it something enjoyable. Make sure you look forward to it. Make it something that is uniquely you, that you really, really can kind of embrace, because that's what we're trying to do, okay? Find something you can embrace and do daily. And I promise you, you're going to start seeing the effects of this, not only in just the fact that you'll be calm, in a calmer state most of the time during the day. You'll be in kind of a more reflective state during the day. But you'll also notice that each time you do your practice, you'll start to have things you didn't notice before, a feeling, or maybe a word comes to you over and over again, or maybe a picture appears in your mind. And again, we'll get into that later. But when you're trying to build your daily practice, you're building the foundation. So that's where we're going to start. And we're going to start with meditations. Now, the first meditation we're going to talk about is silent meditation. And this is the one that you may have tried and may have thought, I don't like this at all. I can't do it. I keep thinking it's not for me. So I'm going to try to explain it in a way that might be a little bit easier, but even then it may not appeal to you. But this is the one that most people try, and it's the one that is actually one of the harder meditations to do. And so a lot of times people will try it and think, I don't like meditation. There are lots to choose from, so we're going to go through them. But the silent meditation is where you focus on your breath. So you get in a comfortable space where you're not going to be disturbed for a few minutes. You can close your eyes, or you can gently gaze at an object or something in the room. Eyes open or eyes closed. When your eyes are closed, take your deep breaths. And you're going to focus on the breath. You're going to focus on what it feels like. You're going to focus on the sound, what it feels like on your lips coming in and in your nose and out your mouth. And what you're going to notice is that thoughts do pop up. Now, when we think, we kind of get lost in our thoughts. And this happens all the time. It's very normal. You're walking along. This is just an example, but you're walking along and you see a flower. That flower reminds you of a garden you had as a kid. That garden you had as a kid reminds you of a trip you took. That trip you took reminds you of your mom. That reminds you that you need to call your mom. And on and on and on it goes. It's like a snowball effect. It just keeps going and going and going. And the more it goes, the more lost we get in our thoughts. And that's a very normal human thing to do. That's what we do. The idea behind meditation, especially silent meditation, is being aware of your thoughts. So you concentrate on your breath, and then there may be a thought that comes. And you kind of get in the observer position, meaning you're aware, oh, there's a thought. Okay, I'm not going to get carried away with my thought. And that part of you that's noticing the thought, that part of you is your being, your spirit. It's something different. It's a different consciousness. And that's the part of you that needs to speak to the spirit realm. So even just noticing, oh, that's a thought I'm having. I need to do my breath again. Getting back into the breath. That observer part of you, that is where you want to be. That's the goal, okay? And it will happen in short increments of time. And over time, you'll get better at it, and you'll be able to do it for long lengths of time. Or if that doesn't suit you and suit who you are, you can only do it a few minutes. That's okay. That's okay. This practice needs to be for you, and it needs to be something you can do daily and really be excited about it and enjoy it. Okay, so the next meditation we'll be talking about is tea meditation. Okay, so I'm a little biased about this one because tea meditation is one of my favorites. It's one I like to do in the morning. And for my daily practices, I don't always do the same thing every day. I find that I get a little bored doing the same thing every day. So I have a few things that I pick and choose from daily. But tea meditation is one of my favorites because you're using your senses to kind of distract your mind. Your mind is able to focus in on the senses and the things you're experiencing with drinking tea. And what you do is get a hot cup of tea, something without caffeine in it, an herbal tea or a chai tea, and you notice the warmth on your hands, the smell of the tea, the taste of the tea, the the steam coming off of the cup and going to your face, the reflection in the tea. These are the things you kind of focus in on. So you're completely and totally absorbed in this act of drinking tea. And again, thoughts will arrive. And what you need to do when they do is go back to the tea. Take another sip, feel it, smell it, and touch it. And this one is a little easy. It seems a little more accessible because you are using your senses. You kind of have something, and it's kind of like an anchor that can kind of anchor your thoughts. And it's enjoyable. I love tea anyway. So I usually do this one in the morning, and I don't really put a time limit on it. It can last, sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes. It just depends on how much time I have and how much I want. And that is uniquely me. I'm not really a time, I like to use my time the way I want to use it. So being stuck in 5 minutes is not a good idea for me. Sometimes that's 5 minutes, sometimes it's more. And your practice needs to be uniquely you. So if you do tea meditation, maybe it's very fast. The main thing is to make sure that you are focused in the time that you have. So even if it's a few minutes, for whatever time that it is, you're completely focused and immersed in this activity. And what that does is narrows the focus, and it makes space in your mind for messages to come through. You're making yourself accessible to the spirit realm. And what will happen as you do this over time is not only will it get easier, but you'll start to notice things. You'll start to notice things you didn't notice before. And we'll talk about that more in the next video. But that is something to take note of as you do your spiritual practice. Note what you feel. Note what works and what doesn't work. What resonates with you. What thoughts came up. Sometimes when you're first starting this process, things come up that you thought you'd forgotten about, or you thought you'd gotten over, things from childhood. When that happens, acknowledge it and then let it go. That's the main thing. Let it go. Be the observer and let it go. There's a thought. There's that thought that I thought I forgot about, but there it is, and let it go and get back to the act of drinking tea. It's more of a mindfulness practice, but it is a type of meditation. You're in a meditative state. You're in a state where you are focused in on one thing rather than just kind of everything going on in your head. Okay? All right, let's get to our next one, which is called loving kindness meditation. Now, there are many, many ways to do the loving kindness meditation. Basically, what you're trying to do is put loving and kind thoughts in your heart, how you feel during the day, in your speech, and in your mind. Okay? So what you want to do is get in the silent meditation seated position. You'll close your eyes, and as you breathe in, you will speak words of kindness or love. Think of people you love and want to do kind acts for. It's kind of thinking, but it is a kind of controlled thinking. So have this planned out beforehand, and then you can kind of use these images or these words as anchors. So, for example, you might breathe in, and as you breathe out, in your mind, you would say loving kindness, or I will be kind today. I will have loving thoughts today. And pick 2 or 3 phrases to say over and over again, because once again, that repetition, that rhythm, that brings you into a meditative state. This one I like because it does kind of set a tone. When you are constantly thinking and speaking and feeling loving kindness, it really does make it part of who you are for that day. I like, again, to do this one in the morning, but you can do it in the evening, especially if you've had a hard day and you want to let go of a lot of things that happened in the day, and you want to bring some loving kindness into your life as you go to bed and let go of things that maybe have gone on during the day. It's just a really, really nice meditative practice, and it gives you the chance to kind of think about and bring to the forefront what you think of when you think of loving kindness. It may bring up a person. It may bring up some kind of act of kindness you've seen. And you can think that in your mind. If it brings up your grandmother, you can say, as you exhale, my kind grandmother, I love you, Grandma. It's a loving kindness meditation, and what you're trying to do is fill your heart and the spaces that you're not trying to leave open with loving kindness. So those little thoughts, those anchor thoughts, little words, a picture of a relative, those things kind of anchor your thoughts so you don't just start going everywhere. You have a very specific thought or a very specific word or phrase that you're saying over and over again. And that repetition is what the mindful state is. And the actual words are kind of anchoring you so that you're not just drifting off into everywhere. Okay? So that is loving kindness meditation. Let's go on to the next one, which is walking meditation. So walking meditation is one that I do almost every day. And I do it with my dog, Lucy. This one you don't have to do by yourself. You can if you want to, but if you have a pet and you want to do a walking meditation with them, that's fine. The main thing about a walking meditation is that you are completely and totally in the moment. And once again, it's an easier one because you can use your senses to anchor you. So as you're walking, you can notice the colors. If you're in a park, the trees, the grass. And what you're trying to do is not label it, not think thoughts about it, but just acknowledge it and look at it and try to kind of, it's more of a resonating with it. It's more of an accepting that it's there. When you label things like that is a tree, or that's a tree, what it does is it kind of, it builds kind of a wall, because if you label something, you're kind of dismissing everything else that it is. And that's why it's not a good idea to call people names, because you've reduced them to something very, very small and a very small box. And there's so much more than that. And the same with a tree, or the same with grass. If you kind of try to almost kind of merge with it, notice the shape of it, things about it you didn't notice before, really kind of immerse yourself in the experience of looking at that tree, of looking at the grass, and kind of feeling it and sensing it in a way that is not reduced to words. This will get you kind of used to being able to feel a spirit connection, being able to feel when a relative is trying to speak to you or trying to get your attention, because it's that same kind of connection that isn't really, it's not connected by language, it's connected more by feeling or by sensing. And so as you walk, that's kind of what you're doing with everything around you, even your animal. You can watch it and be just in the moment, in that moment. And try not to label things, just watch them, just observe them. Because in that non-labeling observer position, that is your spirit. That is where it resides. So that's what you're trying to get to. So really, you're just trying to observe it. And as you observe, try to kind of merge with it, to feel it, to sense it. When I look at a tree and I'm noticing all of the things about it, what is it that you feel? When you get immersed in looking at a tree, what does that feel like? How does it affect you? What you're trying to do is open up those senses of noticing those little things that you might be missing when a spirit is trying to reach you. It's very subtle, but it's there. And when we go through our daily lives and we're lost in our thoughts and we're, doing this and that, and we lose that. And when you become one with the present moment and you just kind of accept things as they are and take in kind of their essence, it's a completely different experience. It is a meditation. So that is walking meditation. Our next meditation is also one you may have tried, and there are a million on YouTube that are completely free, and you can kind of set the time limit if you need to do that. If your life is very, very busy and you're like, I got 10 minutes, a guided meditation might be really, really good for you. It's very good for people who have a very vivid imagination because they tend to be able to slip into a meditative state very quickly. They're able to use their imagination to kind of take them on a journey, but one that is very focused. A guided meditation is one where you put on earphones and you either lie down or sit up, depending on what meditation you're listening to, and you follow the instructions of the person who is giving the meditation. They'll usually tell you to take deep breaths. They'll have you relax in different ways to relax your body and your mind. And then they take you on some kind of mental journey. They might tell you to go to a beautiful beach or to imagine a beautiful white light coming into your heart and out of your head. It's a way of kind of being able to narrow your focus, but it also gives you an idea of what is in play when you're kind of opening up to spirit. Spirit will use your imagination and your memories to connect with you. That kind of thought that pops into your head, or that song you've forgot about, but there it is. That kind of thing happens a lot. And people just think, oh, I just thought of that. And a lot of times it is a prompting from your spirit guide. They might be trying to tell you something, or they might be trying to give you an answer to a problem that you have. We're going to talk more about that in the other videos, but when you're doing a guided meditation, it's a similar thing to kind of clairvoyance, where you're kind of seeing pictures. And so this one, if you have a hard time imagining, or it's very hard for you to listen to something, you get distracted easily, then this may not be the meditation for you. But if you have a time crunch, you have a vivid imagination, it gives your mind something to do and to focus in on. And you can have some wonderful, amazing experiences with a guided meditation. Some of them are specific to connecting with spirit, and you can try those as well. And when you watch the other videos, going back to a guided meditation, you'll have even more information when you do the guided meditation, so you'll know what kind of to look for, what to kind of be aware of. So it may be that you keep on doing guided meditations if that's what you like, but they'll be a little more, you'll get more information out of it when you get to the other videos. But a guided meditation is good for the active mind because it does kind of focus you in, and it is a meditative state. It's a lot like hypnosis. It has that same element of relaxing and kind of being guided and taken away from the thinking mind that just kind of goes and goes and goes, like we talked about, that snowball, into something that is a little more focused and narrowed. Okay? So that is guided meditation. The next meditation is something that we kind of have already talked about in the other meditations, but it's called mindfulness meditation. And you've probably heard a lot about mindfulness. The great thing about mindfulness meditation is you can do it with anything. You can do it when you're washing the dishes. You can do it when you're vacuuming. You can do it when you're driving. It's really kind of being completely immersed in the activity. So if you're, say, washing dishes, what you would focus in on is the feel of the water on your hands. You would try to kind of stay out of the thought process and just be aware of all the senses that are having the experience. You'd smell the soap. You'd feel the soap on your hands. You'd listen to the clanking of the dishes and be completely immersed in the activity. Depending on what kind of individual you are, maybe you're kind of a person who has a hard time sitting still. A lot of people use activities such as rock climbing or any kind of or hiking, things that kind of have a little bit of strenuousness to them, yoga, tai chi, where you're kind of able to focus in on your body and you're kind of immersed in the body and what it's doing. You're paying attention to that. So in rock climbing, you're very focused. You're focused on that next grip. You're in the moment completely. And that's the idea behind mindfulness meditation, because it is, again, that narrowing of focus. A lot of psychics, if you've noticed, they will talk about getting messages when they drive. And the reason that is because driving, when you're immersed in it, when you're completely focused and you're not really thinking, you're just kind of focusing on the driving, that is a meditative state. And that's when thoughts can pop in or people can pop in. But that is what that is, and that's why it happens, is because you've narrowed your focus and you've kind of opened up space in your mind. You're not just running around with thoughts in your head. So when I talk about driving, I mean you're focused in on the driving itself. You're looking at the road. You're aware of the steering wheel. And maybe you turn off the radio so you're just completely focused in that activity. That can be a really good one if you feel like you need to do something with your body. If you need to do yoga, you're focused in on each pose. You're focused in on the breathing in between. And that kind of just opens up the space needed for your guides to communicate with you or your loved ones to communicate with you. It gives you an idea of what it feels like to be in a meditative state, but it does it in a way that's not so it gives you more of a physical anchor, because we've talked about anchors as far as words or phrases or even a picture of a person. Those can be anchors as well, but this is like a physical anchor. So you're kind of one with your body. The way that you were kind of in the tea meditation, you were kind of one with the tea, really taking in the whole experience. If you are a physical person, or you think I need to do my exercise and my meditation at the same time because otherwise I'm not going to have time for both, that's perfect. Put them together and be completely focused in on that exercise in the breathing. And it is a way that you can receive messages because you are opening up that space in the mind that we talked about, and you're narrowing your focus down to just doing the exercise and feeling that. Okay? All right, next is music meditation. So with music meditation, I have found that classical music is the best music to use. However, there are lots of different kinds of instrumental music, and some may resonate with you where others don't. So use something, again, that is uniquely you. Maybe you love salsa music or Hawaiian music, something from your childhood, or maybe even songs that just are instrumentals of, nursery rhymes. Anything that kind of makes you feel calm and makes you kind of be able to immerse yourself in the music experience. What I would stay away from is any kind of music that has nostalgia wrapped in it, a song that you graduated to or something that would bring up old memories and things like that. You kind of want to stay away from that. If it's familiar, that's okay. But to pick music that's wrapped up in a lot of nostalgia, it's going to make you start thinking. So pick music that is kind of neutral, that you enjoy, but that's kind of neutral, that you can listen to it and the thoughts don't start coming up, okay? Now, if you pick classical music. The reason why classical music I think is a really good one to use is because there are many different instruments. And as you listen, what you're trying to do is immerse yourself in just the music experience. So you would put on headphones or earplugs, and you would, or earphones, and you would immerse yourself in that experience. You would listen to the flutes, you would listen to the drumming, you'd listen to the beat of the music. You'd immerse yourself in the music experience. And you would try to do it without thinking. And that is the trick. But when we talk about meditation, it's not that you're unconscious, you're very conscious, but you're just making space in your mind. You're spreading apart those thoughts, because as you listen to music, thoughts may pop up, and again, be the observer. So they popped up. Okay, there it is. And now I'm going back to listening to the music. And this is a really good one if, again, you get kind of distracted by noises, things like that, because you have something you can focus right in on. Noise doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can be something that can take you into a meditative state. You could also try things like chimes or the sound of a gong, because you can hear the gong and then you follow the ripple. You listen as long as you can listen. And when you're in that listening mode, that is a meditative state. You have narrowed your focus to the sound of that ringing, and you're listening for where the ringing ends. And so that part, when you're doing that, you're in a meditative state. And that's the state you want to be in when you're receiving messages, or when you're trying to get messages, or you're trying to communicate. That's the space you need to open up. So you can use so many things, and music, it really is something that needs to resonate with you. So again, I like to use classical, but you might use other music that is, you might use jazz, because that's another kind of complicated music that you can follow different instruments and kind of make it, give your mind something to kind of do, because you want to anchor it so that it's not just flying everywhere. You don't want to start thinking about, your childhood because you're listening to music about your childhood. You want to be focused in on the music so that you can kind of narrow and then open up space. Okay? So that is music meditation. So as we talked about at the very beginning of this class, your spiritual practice needs to be uniquely you. That means it needs to fit in with your interests and with your lifestyle and with the time you have. And a lot of people are very busy, they don't have a lot of time, and there are a lot of things you can do that are actual activities that are still able to be meditative practices. The only change that you need to make is that you're completely focused in on that activity. So as we talked about driving, that's one that a lot of people do every day. And maybe their thoughts are running away with them and they're thinking of, oh, I got to go to the grocery store and that person cut me off and all the things that go on during the day. Instead, you'd focus in on looking at the road, on the feel of the air conditioner on your face, holding on to the steering wheel, listening to the purr of the engine. You'd be completely immersed in the driving experience. And that's really what you're trying to do. You're trying to immerse everything in the experience so that you can open up space in the thinking mind for other things to come in. When your thoughts are just rolling around with you all the time, it's really, really difficult for your spirit guides to be able to speak with you or give you a message. They still can do it and they still find very clever ways to get in touch with you. But if you're wanting to communicate and do it when you want to, this is what you need to do. I'm letting you know. You need to have this kind of spiritual practice and this mode of being in to be able to make that contact. There may have been a lot of ways that spirit has talked to you. One very common way is to be seeing sequences of numbers again and again. And a lot of times when you see that, that is somebody trying to get in touch with you. And what's happening is in that moment, when you notice that number, you are in the moment. You have gone from being in your head to noticing, oh, there's 1111 again. Your guides are showing you, they're telling you how you communicate with them. You need to be in the moment. You can't be rolling around and thinking of all these different thoughts in your head. If you can stop and focus in on something, even if it's numbers, it gives them a chance to speak to you. You can hear them. So there are lots of activities that maybe you do every single day that you can just kind of merge a spiritual practice with. You can merge it into a meditative experience. And if that's what you want to do, you can. This needs to be uniquely you. And as I said, I don't want it to be a chore, because if you don't want to do it and you don't want to be there, you'll be in a state of resistance. What you want to do is be in a state of allowing. You're allowing things to come in, and you're in a very calm and open state. You're narrowing your focus to make space, okay? So here are some suggestions of things that you might do that are activities, but they can be extremely meditative. And we're going to start with journaling. So journaling is something that it can be something that provokes thought, but it is also kind of a narrowed activity. The writing part of it is the narrowed activity, right? You're focusing in on what you're writing and you're really concentrating on that one thing. Taking spaces between the writing, that's when your spirit guides, your relatives can communicate with you. So it's not during the writing portion. You're going to get immersed in the writing and be completely present for that. And in between the writing sentences or pages, take 2 or 3 or 4 deep breaths and just listen to the breaths. This is kind of like silent meditation, but you're actually giving yourself something to do. And again, be kind of immersed in the writing experience. This is a little tricky because you do have to think while you're writing. You have to think about the word you're writing. That's why you take spaces in between. And the journaling experience is unique because you really are kind of accessing things that are inside of you. You're pondering the day, or you're pondering things in a way that's a little bit deeper than when you're just thinking about, I got to go to the grocery store. You're pondering things in a way that's very reflective. And so it kind of opens you up in a different way. So the journaling can be a great way to fit in a meditative practice within an activity that you may do every day. It's a great way to merge 2 things for your spiritual practice, and it's very easy to do, especially if you already journal every day. Now, just like the writing, you can also read, and read things that are spiritual in nature. Read passages, scriptures, beautiful quotes. And as you read, notice the words, how they each make you feel. What do you like about it? Kind of take it in, and kind of, again, as we did with the walking meditation, you're kind of feeling the essence of it. Why do you like it? What does it make you feel? What kind of feelings bubble up? And then as you read, take a break, take some breaths, and then read on. And when you take those breaths, focus in on the breath, and then go back to the reading. And what happens is, again, you're opening something up. When you're deep in thought and your thoughts are running away with you, you're not really open. You're very focused, but you're also kind of unaware that you're focused on what you're focused on. You're not in the moment. You're in the past, you're in the future, even if it's the recent past, somebody just cut me off, or the almost future. I'm going to the grocery store, I need to get this and this and this and this. It's, you use your mind as a tool all the time. But when you get in that rolling that we talked about, where you kind of just roll along with the thoughts, that's when it becomes kind of, you're lost in the thoughts. And what you're trying to do with all of these activities, again, is narrow the focus and make space. Okay? So when you're doing the scripture and the book passages, you're reading something and you're giving yourself a minute to kind of take it in. What does it feel like? Why do I love this quote by Mark Twain? When I read it, what do I feel? Take in the whole experience and be in the moment. And then take a few deep breaths in between each scripture, each quote, each book passage. Take it in. One of my favorite authors to read is Eckhart Tolle. I use him a lot in my meditative practice. And what I will do is be completely immersed in the idea or the words that he's written down. I'll take it in and I think about what it makes me feel, what comes to mind when I do read this. And then I'll take some deep breaths and let it sit with me. Just kind of let it be. Sit with my just breathing. And then I'll go on to the next page and I'll read some more. And it really is taking in a book, a poem, a scripture, a quote in a completely different way. You're merged with it rather than just kind of reading the words and, oh yeah, I like that quote. You're merging with it in a different way that's very, very concentrated. And that's what you're trying to do. So that kind of meditation practice is great if you're a reader and if you love quotes and if you get very touched by poetry and song lyrics or whatever it is. That is a great practice for you to do if those things appeal to you. And if you do them every day, you can merge this practice with it. Another activity that is a lot of fun and it's near and dear to my heart, and it's a little bit like the walking meditation, but it's connecting with nature. And that's more where you kind of sit in nature among trees. You sit in your backyard. You can even sit on a park bench in a busy city, but you just kind of sit and observe. And you observe the nature specifically. And again, nature has a different kind of resonance than anything else. It really is something that it's easy to resonate with because it's alive, right? It's something living. And so it's very easy to merge with things that are living. You can merge with an object. You can do that. That's a kind of meditation. You can just focus on an object. But when you merge with nature, it really does make you feel more alive. I watch my dog a lot. When I'm petting my dog, I'll just sit and pet her and I'll watch her reaction. And I'm not really thinking. I'm more observing the activity that I'm taking part in. So I'll watch how she reacts or she tilts her head, and I won't take note of it. I'll just observe it. Right? So I'm merging with something that's alive, that's natural, and it really does make you feel like you're merging with something that it isn't you, but it's alive, and it gives you that idea of what it's like to merge with a spirit, to be able to feel a spirit. Because even though you may watch deer, feelings and things may come over you when you're watching the deer. Feelings of a lightness or a happiness, a joy may come over you. So if you're watching deer, if you're watching them eat and you're watching them mingle and you're not thinking about it, you're just observing, you'll notice that feelings come up, things come up for you. You may get chills, watching a mommy deer with her babies. And that's what you're kind of trying to dig into when you do a meditative practice. You're trying to kind of sink into that feeling part. And it also may bring up maybe a quick, a burst of a thought or an idea or a solution to a problem. That's when those kind of things happen, is when you're kind of in the moment, observing and kind of merging with an activity. But nature is a great way to do this because it's alive. And two alive things kind of merging, it just makes it easier because there is kind of a connection that's already there. Okay? Now there are a lot of meditative activities. We talked about kind of journaling. We talked about kind of reading passages. Another meditative activity has to do with the arts. So if you're a painter or if you like to color, things like that, those can easily be made into meditative activities. say you're a painter and that's what you do every day. You paint, or you want to become a painter and you want to paint every day, or you finger paint every day with your child. What you would do is kind of what you would do with a mindfulness activity. You'd smell the paint. You'd watch the colors as they go across the canvas. You'd feel the paint on your hands. You immerse yourself completely in the activity. And there is something about the creative process as well that invites in spirit. We're going to talk more about that again in the other videos, but there is something about creativity that calls in spirit. And a lot of painters and songwriters and artists have had that feeling of being in flow. And when you're in that flow, it is kind of like spirit energy is running right through you. There is something happening that is calling in spirit energy, and there's nothing like it. I'm a singer, and when I get in that flow with spirit, it is the most exhilarating, joyful experience to have. And so that is something you can do if you're some kind of an artist, and it can be with singing, it can be with um, you know uh, painting, coloring, drawing, any kind of activity that is allowing you to kind of focus in on that activity, completely immersing yourself in it, and kind of leaving something open, leaving a willingness to be contacted, some space again, and not running away with your thoughts. Now, if you are a kind of an artist that needs to think all the time, maybe there's you're a woodworker, and so you need to be constantly thinking about exactly what you're doing in a way that's not meditative at all. It's kind of like a distraction. Then you may want to do something different. But if it's something you can immerse yourself in and get completely drawn into, it's a great way to not only get that creative flow going, which is brings in spirit energy, but also that meditative state that you need to be able to have contact with spirit. So a lot of you know me from my YouTube channel, and when I do the readings for my YouTube channel, I use two methods. I use meditation and I use prayer. And prayer it's different than meditation. I enjoy silent meditation, so that is just kind of quiet, and it's kind of an allowing things to come in and creating space, as we talked about. Prayer is a little bit different. It's more like a call and response, right? So you may pray and then you might listen. It's a little bit different. When you pray, you're actually actively telling your guides that you are ready to receive messages, that you are now opening up for messages. Prayer is one of those kind of sacred things that people do, sometimes instinctively, that they know to do to call out to our guides, our God. To the universe. We talk a lot about manifesting. Manifesting is kind of like a prayer. It is declaring something and saying something to open up the channel. I'm ready. I'm opening this up for you. In meditation, a lot of people, before they work, I do this actually before my readings, is you will imagine, like a guided meditation, allowing a light to come up and shine out through your head, because you're opening up. You're opening up your third eye, or you're opening up that part of you that's ready to receive messages. And it's effective because you're basically calling out to your spirit guides, to your loved ones, to God, that you are ready to receive. It's very effective, especially if you have grown up with a religion. It's a really effective way to communicate and to not stray from your religious practice if that's what you do. And the only thing that you would add is kind of a period of listening afterwards, a quiet breathing in and breathing out, and kind of being in a listening mode. It's almost like you're listening for an answer. Growing up, I got a lot of information through prayer, and it it was acceptable, so people around me would pray and get answers. And so it was very accepted. And so I was very open to it. And a lot of this is that being open. And so if you're kind of uncomfortable with this kind of spirituality, or you're uncomfortable with tarot cards or other kind of tools, and you are more of a traditional religion kind of a person, being able to pray and then just add that little thing afterwards that's kind of a period of just kind of quiet listening. That is a meditative state. And the prayer is effective because you've actually initiated the conversation by saying, I am now opening up because I'm communicating with you first and I'm allowing you to contact me. Okay. Another thing that you can add into your daily practice, and again, if you're already doing this or you're interested in this and think, well, this is a great time to start, is working with cards or crystals or stones, oils, essential oils, aromatherapy, things like that, where it's kind of like you're using a tool, but once again, you can immerse yourself in the process. In using cards, my sister uses tarot cards, and she gets into a meditative state when she shuffles, and then her mind kind of goes to work with spirit as she reads the cards. And so this is kind of, again, doing an activity, but it's leaving space open for spirit to come in. And it's also, again, narrowing that focus so that you're very, very focused in on the cards, or you're focused in on the crystals, or you're focused in on the aromatherapy, so that you're really smelling it and taking it in, and kind of experiencing it, emerging with it, as we talked about how you would do with nature or in a walking meditation. This is also really good because these things are known to be connected to spirit. And so already you kind of already, it's like you bought a phone. you bought something that you can actually connect with spirit through. And really the part that is kind of the spiritual part of it is you being kind of immersed in it, being completely immersed in it, so that your mind's not going everywhere. Again, you're narrowing your focus. So when you lay down those cards, you're studying each card and looking at them, and you're allowing information to come in. Cards, crystals, stones, they're a great thing to add to your spiritual practice. And your spiritual practice can be as long or as short as you want. It can be as complicated or uncomplicated as you want. And it can change daily. But the main thing is that you do it every day. Because when you do it every day, you really are kind of opening that communication. You're starting the relationship, and you're getting used to what it feels like to be open to spirit communication. Our last one is pondering and contemplation. Now, pondering and contemplation is different than thinking. And here's why. It has to do with kind of bigger concepts. I'll give you an example. When I was in a silent meditation, we had candles in front of us, all different sizes and shapes, and they had all melted down to different levels. Some were bigger and really, really melted, and others were brand new, and you could see they were pristine. But all of them were lit candles. And in the process of staring at the candles, in between, it occurred to me that these candles were like us, in that the outer shell, that this human part of us, is so imperfect. We have baggage, and we have, things that have hurt us, and things that we carry with us, and grievances, and all of these things, and some more than others. Some are more damaged than others. Some are completely, in pristine condition, or have a perfect, maybe they have a perfect face and body. So, they look like they're perfect. But the one thing that's all the same in every single person that's living is that spirit light that is inside each of us. And that in each candle was exactly the same. It was the same kind of brightness, the same kind of beauty in each candle. Even though the outer shell looked so different, that flame was there. And I thought, it is so much like us. Now, see, that is kind of a bigger concept But it occurred to me because I was in a meditative state. And it was something that occurred to me as I was kind of pondering the candles, looking at them, studying them. And this thought came. And that is where a lot of philosophers live, right? A lot of philosophers live there. And these philosophies and things that occur to us as ideas, especially when they're bigger concept ideas like the one I just described to you, where it's more of like these are a symbol of something bigger. Those are also you're kind of merging with spirit in a way. They're giving you information, but it's through a kind of a pondering and kind of a process where you're open to receiving. That would not have occurred to me had I not been sitting there and just staring and looking at these candles. It wouldn't have occurred to me any other way. And so pondering and contemplation, that's very different than, again, letting the thoughts just roll along. It's very different. Pondering and contemplation are usually about bigger ideas, and they're things that occur to us through smaller things, or things that we didn't realize. There are lots of ways that philosophers have told us truths about ourselves or about the universe. And it's because they've been in that kind of contemplative, receiving kind of mode. And that's how it happens. And again, it's kind of a narrowing of concentration and an allowing for it to come in. Thank you so much for allowing me to get you started in this journey that you're about to take. And please, like I said, go through the notes you've taken, go back through this video and decide what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Some things will appeal to you right away. Some may be a little digging, and some may come from an idea that I've talked about, but it's uniquely you. Maybe you are a rock climber, so you think that's perfect for me. I'm just going to merge my meditative time and my mindfulness time in with my rock climbing. Make it uniquely you, because the way spirit communicates with you is also going to be very, very unique. It's going to be your own way of communicating and hearing messages. And that's what we're going to zero in on in our next video. So that is really exciting. So be patient with yourself, be patient with your practice. If you need to change your practice every day, that's okay. As long as you're consistently doing a spiritual practice, that's great. All right? I can't wait to start the next step in our journey, and I will see you then.